oh, Lieutenant Tommy, if the Luger's so good, why don't they make it anymore? Nobody makes them, and there's no reproductions, and the toggle lock system was garbage, and it was overcomplicated, and everybody hates it, and that's why we don't... Okay, let's break it down. First off, there are actually less parts, total parts, in a Luger than there are in a 1911. That's weird. That would mean it's a little bit less complicated. There are mud tests of the Luger. Look at in-range TV that show that it was perfectly functionable and serviceable in the mud. After all, if this was garbage when it got a little dirty and a little bit muddy, it would have never survived World War I. They would never have continued to produce it into World War II. And then there are also mud tests that show that the 1911 doesn't fare all that well when you slather mud into the system. So why'd they stop making this? Well, it is a bit more expensive to produce this. It's not necessarily more complicated, but it's more time consuming to produce the individual cuts and the toggle link and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, it is a little bit cheaper and a little bit more efficient to create a slide system with a lug barrel system that you got in a 1911 than it is a toggle lock. It doesn't make it better. It just makes it cheaper and easier to produce. So why don't they make reproductions of Lugers? And the answer is simple. We never adopted this. In those pistol trials of 1907, if we actually adopted this, I guarantee you today there would be cheap, affordable reproductions of Lugers. They would be flooding the market because Americans love things that we actually adopted, which is why you could buy Colt Walkers despite them being kind of garbage. That's why you can still buy Colt 1860s and 1851s and all those other Colt variants, is because when we adopted those in the military, they become popular and people like them, so people still buy them. I mean, shit, you can still go out and buy Yolden percussion and flintlock pistols that we used to make as reproductions because we have some kind of obsession with military equipment, and that's okay. So I guarantee you, if we ever adopted this, you'd have reproductions. But since we didn't, and it kind of has a bad reputation because, you know, the people who did adopt it weren't exactly the nicest people in the world. Yeah, you got to pay out the ass for them. Still doesn't mean it's a worse gun than this.